This is the Shadow Chronicles podcast. We are here to take a deep dive into the inner work, generational trauma, and your shadows. Having those hard conversations so you don't have to. You know, all of that shit that just does not get spoken about. In the third drawer down, in the dark, hidden away. My name is Sky and I'm a shadow integration specialist. I am here to help guide you on your journey to unfuck yourself by integrating your shadows, healing the generational trauma so you can vibrate with confidence and just fucking love your life.
And my name is Todd, who's an integrative health coach. I help people own more of who they are, change their lives on many different levels to become who they really are. Find your compass and follow it, to say it simply. Sup?
Sup. Welcome. So, well, this is going to be like a follow-on of last week's episode, really, sort of, kind of, maybe.
It's a little like how we run a concurrent theme of shadow work through everything. This subject is pretty, I think, causal in terms of how shadow work becomes necessary. Mm-hmm. It's like that lack of self-awareness or the lack of awareness of self. Yep, I know what I mean.
I was going to say, wasn't that the same thing, just worded slightly differently? Just jumbled it around a little bit.
Do you want me to annoyingly explain
No.
what I mean?
No.
No, we're good?
We're good.
That's probably for the best.
So, well, we're going to talk about a little bit of an interesting topic, as you said, sort of like how shadow work becomes necessary. So we're looking at something that's called instinct injury. Mm-hmm. So for the people playing at home that have just gone, what the actual fuck is instinct injury?
What is instinct injury?
What is it?
Instinct injury is the progressive devaluation of your own inherent beliefs, thoughts, feelings, instincts in preference of what some person in a white coat or a tie or with letters before and after the name might say. There's a few episodes episodes, because I still speak English.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Where we talked about like obedience and Nuremberg trials and Milgram experiments and all that sort of stuff, right? It's like the white coat syndrome.
Yeah.
That's an example of...
It's like I was just doing what I was told.
Following orders.
Yeah, and not actually thinking about impact or if it's something that you actually wanted to do or not.
How deeply do I align with that and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So like you are progressively injuring what you think, feel, know to be true, at least of yourself, by outsourcing responsibility and personal power to, as I say, people in white coats, people with stethoscopes, people with a desk with a name on it. Or something like that, you know?
So sort of like when I was chatting in the last episode and when I was sort of saying that, like the amount of people that walk through my doors that have said to them, like psychiatrists or psychologists or something like that, said, I'm broken, there's nothing they can do. Or I think my favourite was like apparently had one person say, I was told I had too much trauma and she couldn't do anything about it. Like, is that what you mean?
That's... one of the more extreme versions of it.
Yeah.
More like you go to that kind of person in the hopes of receiving more information.
Yeah.
I think where I interpret instinct injury is where you're ignoring the information you already have about yourself that you've established within yourself.
Yeah. In
preference of someone who says they know better than you.
Okay, so it's instead of it being like, you know, more of like this person said I'm broken, it's that I'm choosing to believe that and ignoring anything else
that may tell me that's not the case at all.
Yep.
Like that as an example, if you were present with the idea that you wouldn't be going to see someone for help if you inherently didn't believe on some level that what you're dealing with couldn't be fixed, managed, progressed through, learnt through, as we've discussed about.
Yeah.
And you just went there because you thought you had to because you're fucked.
Uh-huh.
And then the psychiatrist goes, yeah, you
you're
are.
Fucked. And you're just like, okay, see, told you so type thing.
Kind of, yeah. That's kind of where I'm leaning to.
Ah.
It's something that describes a lot of what we were talking about in the last episode in terms of progressively giving power away about self to a label of a condition or the symptoms that you're told that are just you now.
Yeah.
Happens a lot with nutrition in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So, you should be on 2,200 calories a day. And you'll ignore your own satiety and fullness and hunger signals in preference of what you're supposed to do.
Okay. And here's me going, 2,200 calories a day. Yum.
But that as an example.
Yeah, I know. Like,
why are you licking your lips at that?
Yeah. Oh, well, for me, that's a decent amount of food. But, yeah, I guess in your respect, it's not at all.
Sometimes that's a meal.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I guess that's like, I guess on a similar aspect for, where I've sort of sat in the fitness industry of like having women, being told that they have to eat 1,200 calories a day and that's it, or 800. And I'm like, are you fucking hungry? Like, and I like even to the point where I've explained to them, I'm like, no, like that is like enough food for a toddler, for example.
That's like a meal for me.
Yeah. Well, you're like 6'5" and,
Stuff.
You need to be eating at least, like 2,000 to 2,200 calories. And like, they're like, oh no, like no.
Now, yes.
Yeah.
And that's a very good indicator of what kind of relationship with food that person has.
Yeah.
But the ironic thing is that even if they believed you, there's still a level of instinct injury about that because they're not being present with their own internal signaling.
Yeah.
Like how much food do you want?
Yeah.
No. I'm going to say that better. How much food do you feel like you need?
Yeah.
What kind of food is that? Have you been trained to do nothing but eat carbs and sugars? And you have no power or don't believe you have any willpower to sort of change that because keto is too hard or something like that.
Yeah.
But even though you're trying to look after them with your best of intentions, I know you need to be on at least 2,200. It's still someone else telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And even though there's your best intentions at heart sort of thing.
Yeah, if it's something that they 100% don't believe.
Believe or not,
yeah,
you're still telling them what to do.
Yeah.
You're not their fucking mum.
No, well, that's it. It's more,
Whereas kind of like how we attempt to practice what we do with people is like, no, we ask questions about what they think, about what they feel is true, about their feelings about actions they've taken or actions moving forward to get them connected with themselves about what that actually looks like.
Yep.
That's about 7 minutes of instinct injury explanation. Is that a little bit clearer?
I don't think so.
Good.
Yeah.
So we're done?
Yeah, totally. Like just quit. Just stop. Well, the explanation we did kind of like you did on food, which was kind of like one of the dot points we had written down. But we've also written down things like self-care and exercise and relationships and, like all those sort of things.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Expand
time.
I'm going to stay on food for the time being.
Yeah, it's easy to relate to.
What is your relationship with food really? Is kind of what the question that matters
Yeah.
needs to be.
So to be like, what's your relationship with yourself? What's your relationship with others?
All of those things.
Yep.
It's just that food happens to be the example that we're using right now.
Yep.
Like, what is food for? Well, it's for growing and thriving.
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually use it? To placate and
To smush emotions and make me feel better.
dopamine hit myself and stuff like that. It's like, so you've transfused the meaning of, say, self-care in that example
Mm-hmm.
into something that's admittedly a form of self-care,
Yeah.
but not necessarily healthy. So
Yeah.
have you injured your innate human instinct in preference of a coping mechanism that happens to use sugar as its primary management system, because there's all those endocrinal neurotransmitter effects that come along with that, like
Yep.
dopamine.
Yeah.
So a thing like the food pyramid.
Which is like a bullshit.
Uh-huh.
Just turn it upside down.
Just to sort of like, go on with what we were talking about last episode. If you convince people that a bunch of scientists know you better than you do, this is how the red tick, this is how the food pyramid, this
Like
is how
stars.
the
The thingy, like, when you like.
Yep.
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. It's a pre-qualified thing that means you don't have to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
which means that you're never really being present with
Again,
what you
it's-
think
it's
and
that-
what you might feel.
It's the process of, like, staying small is like a bad analogy, or like it's just that process of staying asleep.
Disconnected and switched off.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I don't have to think about that. There's a little thing on there that says it's good. So if it says it's good, that means it's good. And I feel like crap and all this other stuff.
Well, I know losing weight, I'm eating the way the doctor said I should. I'm like, yeah. But your average GP gets about 4 weeks worth of nutritional training in their entire doctorate.
Yep.
And they'll hopefully tell you that. Even then, the whole reason for that is because that doctor then outsources the responsibility for nutritional treatment to a dietitian.
Yep.
What if the dietitian has been fed the same nutritional advice that the last 80 years have been built on, where salt's bad, fat's bad, this and that and the other, sugar's fine, carbohydrates are awesome. I mean,
Yeah. They are.
But so there's this big chain of no responsibility. So I'm just doing what they told me to do. My shiny bit of paper says that I'm really good at doing what I'm told to do.
Yeah. So that's it. It's I guess like, outsourcing and what you said with the doctor. The doctor has the shiny bit of paper that goes, look, I think you need to see a dietitian. The dietitian then is like going, yep, well, based on what the doctor said and what that big fat book over there says, which was written in, the 1900s.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. This is what you need to do without any consideration. And then obviously the person then goes, okay, so they go away and do the thing. They still feel like crap. There's something still going on. They go back and go, there's still something going on. So that's if they are aware. If they're not aware, it's...
Well, they're aware, or aware enough.
Aware enough. Or it's a case of like, well, I'm doing what they told me to do, so it must be right, and this is how I'm supposed to feel, even though that's crap.
Or worse.
Or worse.
You think you're doing it wrong and it's your fault.
That's the one I was getting to.
And then you really inflect. Like that's the extra manifestation of instinct injury.
Because that's what I was like, that was my first point, was like, you go back and they're like, well, if you're doing everything right and you feel like crap, then that's a you problem. And then they're like, well, hang on a minute, and like, I don't know. Well, to me, I kind of relate that to, how women, especially, well, it's only women that go through it. So things like, heavy period or pain and all that sort of stuff. And they go in and they're like, I'm in like a lot of pain and it's not really normal or anything like that. And the doctor goes, no, you're fine. And then you walk out and go, what? And they're like, well, okay, well, it must be in my head then. I must have a problem.
Can you see how instant injury happens?
Yeah.
If you, as a woman who in theory is built to have a level of intuition that's difficult to quantify, theory, not everyone.
Yeah.
In theory.
In theory.
And you get gaslit into going, you don't know yourself at all.
Yeah.
I'm about to say some stuff that flies in the face of pretty much the last 25 years of what I've done for a living and study.
Okay. This should be good.
Scientific evidence is built on what works for most people. It's the law of averages. So we talked about the education system.
Yep.
It's like that works for most people. And even then, works is a pretty funny word in this conversation.
Yeah. It gets most people to do what I want them to do.
What if you're the outlier?
Yeah.
What if you're sick of putting up with this stuff?
Yeah.
What if you got an alternative opinion, which was maybe you don't need to be on the pill?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a thing that's actually causing some troubles.
Oh, yeah.
Look, we're not going to start that now, but those as conversations to have moving forward, it becomes something else that you're your own gaslighter at that point.
You're a gaslighter? What?
Why do women take the pill?
Well, I don't know about all women. I know about me.
Just a rough list of why most women.
Most women are birth control.
Yep.
So they don't get pregnant. I think when they it's really inherently taught that when the minute they start becoming sexually active, they have to go and take the pill. So it's kind of like the responsibility of contraception, falls onto the women. Some have unusual heavy periods. Some have really, really painful periods, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm talking about sort of when they're really, really young too. So, and then they sort of go on the pill to stop it.
Hormone regulation, as an example?
Well, I actually think it's hormone dysregulation because...
We're getting to that. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, because hormone regulation is letting your body do what the fuck it's supposed to do. And if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, you're kind of supposed to look into that, not go, here's some hormones to try and regulate it. And I know...
Again, thank you. That's where I was actually wanting to get to.
Okay.
So all those superficial is not a correct word to use when it comes to not wanting to get pregnant, because that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, well, I think it was when it was first brought out in, was it the 60s? When the pill actually became, about
that
then.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, it was...
Because I was there and everything.
Yeah, totally. A lot of, obviously, it was marketed to, obviously, women being able to take control and being able to go to university and get a job.
Go to the workforce and all that
Go to the workforce and all this sort of stuff because they...
You could tax more people that way.
Well, you could tax more people that way. Again, you could get people to fit in a system that doesn't, that they don't, not that they don't belong. It's just a system that's not created to support, the standard workforce, in whatever area it is not created to support a female's hormonal regulation system. That was a lot of that to try and get that sentence out.
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
So would you say that a human's hormonal function, its endocrine system, is pretty instinctual?
Yeah. It knows what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. This is why this is a good example. This is why it's a good analogy. So if you're given contraception,
Yep.
not necessarily just to prevent
Pregnancy.
conception,
Yeah.
all of the above, but to manage acne, for example, or because that's the thing.
I know it's a thing, but I'm like, I don't think it works. Just saying, putting it out there.
But the irony is that it's an attempt to artificially impose a pattern and a structure of hormone ebb and flow, which from the looks of it is a day-to-day thing for women in general, as opposed to men who have almost like
I'm pretty stable. Not so, but
it moves, but it's not
to the extremes.
Different level of extreme and dramaticness to it. So, like, how do we sell that?
Yeah.
And we could start a really awkward conversation about something different relating to, like, how do we alienate people from one another and all this sort of stuff. And, well, we put women here, we put men there, and we make them think that that's to get back at you, and then they get back at you. It turns anyway. Let's not go down that rabbit hole because that's a 6-parter with cake and ice cream. But it's another example of even if your hormonal regulation outside of the pill, for example, is a little
whack
everywhere.
Yeah.
Who's to say that that's because something in your diet or the microplastics you drink every other day, as examples, isn't exacerbating a problem? Like how much more endoestrogen are you intaking because you've got a high amount of soy in your diet, for example, which is going to have an impact. It's like estrogen's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Don't need to tell you. But you know what I mean? It's like, how do you get in tune with your own patterns, your own system? How do you support that? Because this is going to get into the self-care conversation as well. It's like, how do you care about self? What does that actually look like? Do you have any clue whatsoever? Or are you just believing what you've been told to disconnect from yourself, to have it just be a status quo thing that's from a book and a dude in a white coat who says, I know better?
Yeah.
And like, the point of science is that you try and extrapolate meaning and find smarter ways of doing things. But cool new information has still got to be integrated and interpreted and found to add value to you.
Yeah.
What's the point of shadow work?
To integrate all parts of you.
Cool new bits of you that you maybe were lacking in conscious information about, to make the whole of you more awesome.
Yep.
This is why instinct injury matters. And this is why it's an important thing to be able to address and confront.
Yep.
Because who are you without food?
Yeah.
Dead.
Water. Dead.
Who are you without hormonal regulation? Possibly dead as well.
Possibly, but not having a fun time, that's for sure.
Who are you if your consciousness and sensitivity and self-advocacy in a relationship isn't on point?
Very unhealthy.
I was going to go with toxic, but that's a much nicer word.
That I was going to say that first. But
or
I was
at least in a toxic environment anyway.
That's it. That's the whole case of like, seen this guy on Instagram. And I don't know if this is like what you're going on about. This is just what made me think of it. He's really cool. And there was a reel of him, which obviously was a podcast. And he's having a rant. And he's just like, I'm sick to death of these people, these men coming to me and saying that they want their woman to be their piece. And it's like, bitch, if you're not going to, like, why do you have to say that? You know, if she's bringing, if you feel like she's bringing chaos, what the fuck are you bringing to the table? You know, are you behaving in a way that's unhealthy? Are you doing this and doing that? And I know it goes for both sides.
No, it's not even that. It's like, well, sometimes she is, but sometimes it's you, bro.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you're the triggering motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, so if you're, you know, bringing those things in and then, like, you know, pointing and going bang, 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 and then she's just blowing up or he's just blowing up, and then you turn around and go, you're psycho, you're this, you're that. I'm like, well, you kind of just hurting your own feelings, mate. Like, I
think we've been talking about roughly that exact conversation earlier.
Yeah.
Not recorded.
Yes.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
But that is yet another example of, like, what is your instinct? What is your deep down inclination when dealing with your favorite person, as opposed to what you've been taught is necessary to win the power dynamic?
Yeah.
Or
it's like, are you taking enough self-awareness to take a step back and going, what the fuck's actually going on with me here, and my own regulation and my own thoughts, my own feelings and all this sort of stuff? Or am I just following a trait that I've been told to say, this is how I have to be, and to be successful or to hold a relationship or do this?
What it looks like, period.
What it looks like is me being in 100% full control, and I get to shit all over this person. This person's just got to take it and just not actually do anything and ask any questions, because the minute a question's asked, then, you know, boom.
Leapy bitch. Bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice versa.
It's like, no, my job's just to take it because I'm in a relationship. It's just what you do.
Yeah.
Or you know, those are obviously quite polarized relative extremes of this conversation. But again, it's still is that what you were taught to believe is the case by your parents and their dynamic?
Yeah.
Your initial relationships, the relationships you see around you. You know, like, all of these things are sets of behaviors that I'd like to think for the vast majority of people have nothing to do with how you actually want to treat your favorite person. Because presumably you're only with them because they are your favorite person. And if they're not, and this is where it comes back to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know how many episodes we've done about, like, oh, you attract what you think you deserve.
You attract what you think you deserve. You also attract your mirror. So you attract the parts of you that you've disowned, disconnected, and rejected. And I guess that's where that, like, your instinct injury comes in. So if that's what you think you deserve, that's also all the parts of you that you have disowned and rejected and all that sort of stuff. Hello, shadow. And they've come into your life, and they've come into your life to give you a double dose to try and get your attention, to go, hey, fucking see, hear, think, you know, like all the things, to be in that space, to be able to take that step back and going, hang on a minute, what's going on?
As opposed to leaning into the copium that lets you not feel alone as long as you're not alone. Yeah. It's...
Yeah, you're only successful if you're in a relationship, or you're only successful if you're married, or whatever else. And
or whatever other misnomer bullshit.
Bullcrap that's been fed, you know. And I guess the theory of that is because, again, sort of being taught that because you're so disconnected from yourself, the minute that you are alone, all of your shit comes up.
And that's usually the bit where you don't get to ignore that injured instinct anymore, in theory.
Yeah.
Providing that you're prepared to see it that way. It's like, am I injured by this or this or this or that? Yeah. Where did that really come from? Am I actually this level of bellend?
Am I the actual asshole, or is something else going on here?
But that's why it's an important question to ask, because until you've got that framing to be able to go, this doesn't feel like me.
Yeah.
But at least asking the question, is this me? Is this a feeling I want to stay present with? Am I unaligned? Am I actually just hurting my own feelings by hurting theirs because it's dumb. Yeah. I mean that. I say dumb, I mean switched off or asleep or however you want to frame it. It's like it's not being. It was a thing that you said a couple of weeks ago. There's a difference between thoughts and thinking.
Is it the thinking thing?
And that's what I mean.
Yeah. So 90% of us are not thinking new things.
I think you're being very generous at 90.
Okay, well, a very, very, very high percentage of human beings are not actually thinking new things. We're recycling the old thoughts that we have.
So 78% of thoughts that you have had today are exactly the same as what you had yesterday.
Recycled ones from yesterday.
To keep today exactly the same as yesterday.
Exactly. And it's like when emotion only lasts in the body for about 90 seconds. That's how long it takes for an emotion to process through. If it takes longer than that, you're in a thought loop, because what you're doing then is you're reigniting that emotion over and over and over again. When we step out of thought and move into thinking, we step out of our conscious mind, essentially, and step past that boundary to gain that wider perspective.
Have we talked about metacognition yet?
No.
That's exactly what it's supposed to describe.
Yeah. Like metacognition, the void, pushing past the boundary, whatever.
Or just that sense of self that's actually the overviewing thing of you.
Yeah.
Like, you're not your thoughts. You are the bit of you that sort of is a little bit pulled back, observing those thoughts. But you've got to practice that. You've got to be present that that's a thing that you could be and actually are.
Yeah. So even like that space is actually very, it's very relaxing. It's a very calm place to be. And, a lot of profound learning and healing and stuff happens in that place. So again, that, bringing back to say like relationships and stuff like that, and the whole fear of being alone, because when you're alone, then all your shit comes up. Even then, 9 times out of 10, you're not in that thinking state. You've now just regurgitated thousands upon thousands of thoughts that have come up and then have ignited your nervous system to feel all of the things.
Why do you think alcohol is a thing? Why do you think Netflix is a thing? Why do you think drugs are a thing? Like addiction in general. It's like, how do I not think?
Or feel. I think a lot of it is human beings are very good at think or thought. We're not so flash at feeling.
Keeps us safe.
Like I've spoken to so many people that like, oh yeah, I have great regulation, but all they do is stamp
it down?
No, it's intellectualize it. Oh yeah, I feel angry, and when I'm angry, this is happening and that's happening. I'm like, are you actually feeling the emotion right now, or are you just fucking dissecting it? Like, where is it in your body? I don't know. Well, get the fuck out of your head for a second and go out and expand and move into that thinky space where you're like, okay, well, who am I when I'm not angry? Or who am I when I'm not this? And
what could have possibly brought this on?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's telling me something about myself.
Right.
Don't just get angry out of nowhere. Presumably. No, well, no one does. Even if it seems like they do, but at 9 times out of 10, it's just a fucking suppression upon suppression upon suppression till your body can't hang on to the fucking shit anymore, and it goes boom. And 9 times out of 10, then it's like, oh fuck, that came out of nowhere. That person has a problem. And then again, that's that instinct injury of going, well, that person said I had this, and because of this, then that makes it true. I suspect the majority of domestic violence, in whatever form that takes, only really exists because of what you've just described. In theory.
The suppression
and the injured instinct to be present with the emotion and the thoughts that either trigger it or arise because of it. Because, again, in theory, that person's your favorite person.
Yeah.
But something has injured the want to give a shit about that as a statement, as a feeling, as a belief, and do some wild shit instead.
Yeah. But then also that makes me, think, well, yeah, that's it. How many times did that person get belted because the person loved them? Like as a child, right? Like,
That sounds like a hell of a way to injure a love instinct to me. I don't know if we've talked about it yet. No. We've talked about it all the time.
Oh, okay.
It just hasn't necessarily been on air. It's like the odd juxtaposition that you can love someone and be treated like that by them. Sorry, no, I'm going to rephrase that. They can love you and treat you like that at the same time.
Yeah. I think we spoke about that like in the very, very early episodes. Like we kind of, glossed over it. Not glossed over it, but, kind of.
But there's such an injured instinct about that. The thought occurs to me that maybe we're just being super black and white about that.
Well, yes and no, because,
maybe the odd slap so that you can stop them from being so hysterical is necessary, one way or the other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the absurdity of it. It's
so triggered by crying that you've got to beat the shit out of the person crying to make them stop.
It's not quite where I was going for. It's like, you know what a pattern interrupt is, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like there's that poke in the ribs. Ooh.
Yeah.
And then just, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I've just lost myself in old bullshit.
Way nicer to do pattern interrupts than that, but...
But you know what I mean,
I know what you mean. But again, I guess that's that, what was I going to say? Process. Oh, yes. Like we all run unconsciously with our values and then the beliefs that stem around those values, which is, your instincts and all that sort of stuff. And
that's how they're values. There's such a deep down, inherent, instinctual thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so someone that gives you a piece of paper and go pick these are your values is complete bullshit. Your values are ingrained with you from birth. You can change them and the energy around them and stuff. But
if you're lucky, the words on that piece of paper pretty closely coincide with what you think and feel they are.
Yeah.
But even then, it's our word trying to describe an intensely personal, phenomenally complex concept of transcendent being that I am even now doing a woefully inadequate job of describing.
Values is fucking wicked, but that's just what I do for fun. No, it's what I do for a living. But yeah, so if someone, for example, has this high value for connection, but they have that belief or that injury on it because there's...
You can't have connection without consequences.
Or any form of connection had led to trauma or something like that. They're going to move into that connection space, but the minute they have it, they're going to push it away or sabotage it or do something.
Especially if you've got a disinclination to trust it or trust yourself or don't think you deserve it or however you want to frame it.
However you want to frame that around, which is the beliefs that surround that said value. So, yeah, it's...
Have we talked about the Daemon yet?
No, you asked that last episode too, but we're here now, so introduce Daemon.
Daemon. It was a concept that was first described by Socrates 5,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was basically describing was this sense and feeling that something from beyond you has come down and taken you over.
Higher self.
Getting there.
Yay.
Point being that what he was just trying to describe was this process where you are so invested in what you're doing. You're so present with what you are there for. You feel like you're not you because you in that moment have kind of shrugged off those layers of overconsciousness, the monkey mind thought.
Yeah.
You are just so you being you that the mistake I think was made that, like we say, you are not your thoughts, you're not your sort of memories and all this sort of stuff. It's like that. Everyone so thoroughly identifies with that being you that you forget that there's a far broader, more profound version of you that is actually you, as you say, your higher self.
Your higher self.
That was then referred to as the Daemon.
Daemon. Yeah. Welcome to the void.
Whichever word you want to describe it.
Yeah, essentially
So
that's it. It's
the ability to shrug off those lower consciousness to be present with that sort of stuff.
To be present, with more of and this and that and other. And
it's sometimes referred to as flow state.
Yeah, void.
You know what I mean?
Yep, it's the void.
Okay, so things that don't seem like your average day-to-day monkey mind
bullshit
you
Yeah.
flood in, pour out. Oh, look at that thing I just drew or created or said that didn't get me cancelled but helped someone, or whatever it happens to be.
It's almost like the learning state.
So you got beta, alpha, and theta brainwaves. It sounds pretty theta to me.
Yeah.
Because there's a. Do we want to start with the metaphysical side of this yet?
I don't know. Do we?
Let's kind of go off on a tangent.
Or do we like part it? Oh, when we decide episodes in the middle of episodes, like.
This will definitely come up later. Definitely. So we can probably afford to leave it here. I'll keep it short by saying that there is this idea that every bit of information we could possibly ever want, desire, need, conceptualize, create is floating around.
Yes.
We just need to open up our subconscious, broader sense of self, and then our consciousness to let that in to be a thing.
Yep. Learning state.
This is the instinct that we talk about that gets injured.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we stopped just short of going really into the metaphysical stuff. All right, so good. The reason I bring up the Daemon is because this is a concept that, as near as I can tell, was literally demonized.
By the name, probably, yeah. Well, again.
But this is how it
calm down. Easy, Tiger. It's normally me that ruins the podcast crap.
Yeah. But this is a concept like if you wanted people to believe in a higher authority that is effectively a being in the sky that you owe money to because he's angry at you on a Sunday if he didn't turn up.
Yeah.
But you had a whole bunch of people walking around living their best fucking life just by being themselves and being so present with the epicness that is the human experience that you've chosen as your meat popsicle piloted spirit ghost.
Yeah.
How do you control people like that?
Well, you don't. You can't. That's
you
the thing.
Demonize that version. So you literally turn that word into something else.
Yep.
That must be the devil. As an example.
Devil's my power man.
That. So like the analogy seems to be that attempt at control is trying to create that overconsciousness, that neuroticness that needs to pay attention to everything and every dirty thought you have about the farmer's wife or whatever sort of shit goes on about the 10 Commandments and having to confess and doing 37 Hail Marys in an impalement. To effectively injure the instinct that would otherwise let that higher sense of self in to be the real you. Because that version of you is not interested in towing lines about
right, wrong, good, bad, up, down.
Again, owing money to people on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because you turned up. Cool, I get to turn up and hang out here on a Sunday and pay money?
Yes.
Awesome.
Sounds awesome. I think
and then feel guilty and shameful about a thing that's just because you're an animal.
Oh, well, yeah, like the human experience. Well, it's just like, I wonder how many people ask the question, and I think this is like as we spoke about a lot in our last episode when it comes to like neurodivergent stuff and how, we have this amazing ability to ask questions about shit that people get angry at us for, because then that means that, we're not towing the line or whatever else. And if you want to, talk about like human experience and, being present and having that demonized as being the devil, like if we go by sort of scripture or whatever, like obviously Lucifer was an angel that got kicked out of heaven because he didn't want to obey, his father or whatever else, and got sent to hell.
Yep.
And that's what Scratchy thinks of that. And
I honestly thought he was throwing up his biscuits. I'm reasonably happy with that.
Oh, phew.
Okay.
Yeah, and then but apparently, God is forgiving and God is this. I'm like, really? Doesn't sound very.
You have to repent and buy deeper into the necessity of receiving forgiveness at the dispensation of your own authority of self.
Yeah.
Instinct injury.
Yep. And did anyone else notice it was extremely weird that apparently God died for all our sins and then rose again 3 days later? So did he, just want to...
I'd like
sounds a bit
to believe that
sounds a bit narcissistic to me. Just saying.
I'd like to believe that that's a metaphor for the rebirth that you will experience once you ascend to heaven. This is the best spin I can put on it.
Well, when you think about it like that, it's actually kind of like a really cool shadow work metaphor too, because it's like when that old part of you dies, then you are like, when you integrate and come back, you come back as the newer, higher version of you. We won't tell.
So 2 episodes ago, we talked about religion and spirituality and philosophy. Like, to my mind, this is what the Bible and most holy books are for, is they're profound lessons about
self-discovery,
worthy ways to behave and treat yourself and the people around you on the proviso that it's seen and heard for that, as opposed to a book you have to memorize, otherwise you're a shit Christian.
I'm pretty sure 90% of Christians actually haven't really read the Bible or only read bits of it.
And try and...
Because when you actually do read it, it's pretty gnarly.
The first half is certainly.
Yeah.
But that's unfortunately where all the really cool lessons actually are.
Yeah.
Don't enslave the Jews, or some wild dude with a beard's going to cast plagues on you and you just be knee deep in frogs. Like, suck it, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Again, like they're valuable lessons on the proviso that you can pull back from the do what you're toldness enough to see the value in it that it is. Like, hopefully you see it's not because you're being told to do it. It's because there's an analogy there that goes, what if you tried this? You can free the slaves. You can cross the ocean. You can do anything.
Yeah.
You can see a burning bush, and
apparently Moses was high when he saw that bush too.
do you know what? Allegedly it was a juniper bush.
Yeah.
Apparently there's some pretty profound hallucinogenic qualities to burning juniper bush.
Yep.
So you know that what's it called? You know when they're performing service and they're swinging that tonsure with the sage burning? Okay, it's similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
How do you get people to swallow this tripe? Well, get them high and see what lands. That's a bit harsh, but you know what I mean. Look,
why aren't many more Christians doing mushrooms?
Wait for it. I have theories.
Okay.
One of them is about the terronal energy corona that sits around people. I'll get to that in a second. I reckon that's what angels actually are, but we'll get to it.
Well, angels are actually like very scary beings.
They're feathers and eyeballs.
Yeah. Someone's been taking too much acid.
It's part of the theory. Have you ever seen any of the stained glass windows that have got extremely mushroomy shapes in the background, as an example. Yep. There's a few others that have got quite specifically feminine looking body parts in the background.
Yeah. And that's bad.
Different conversation, but what happens if the transcendence of meeting God is facilitated by those substances that allow you to transcend the mundanity of the 3D realities? You meet the energy beings, one of which may or may not have a beard.
Yeah. Well, the same thing as like Adam and Eve when they ate the apple. It wasn't actually an apple. It was some sort of hallucinogenic, and that's how they fucking talk to a snake.
And how do you keep...
We're like way off track here.
But this is still an analogy of if we're right and these theories are even remotely on point, it's a 2,000-year conspiracy to instinct injure.
Oh, yeah.
So...
witch burnings, like, yeah.
You know what a toroidal energy sort of field looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
This big sort of, what would you call it? You know, the symbol of the infinite, the infinity symbol.
Yep.
Like that, right? What happens if there was enough people getting busted up on mushrooms or sage or juniper bush or whatever it happens to be.
Some peyote or...
and they've created a circumstance where they can, in their own perceptions, see certain kinds of energy. And when you're dealing with someone who is a higher elevated being, they're coronal.
Well, you said coronal first.
Not coronal.
Which I was like, wow.
Coronal. So it's like, but what happens if that shape in a vibrant, energetic state looks like wings?
Yeah.
As an example. So what happens if angels are just really high vibration people that other people got busted up enough to go, oh, look, there's an angel, he's delivering me. No, he's just teaching you how to be like a high vibe person yourself.
Yeah.
Let's see how that lands in the book.
Yeah.
Like just as an idea. But even then, it's like you take that stuff to sort of transcend the injured instinct that is the monkey mind and the...
Yeah. So, yeah, modern day religion, like, no, we're not going to do that because we want to keep you in that instinct injury space of don't think, don't ask questions, just do this. And if you ask questions, you're a bad person or you're wrong. Or if you have unweird symptoms or, you know, naughty thoughts about the farmer's wife or whatever else, you're bad.
Why do you think alcohol is fine, but other hallucinogens aren't? It can't be that much of a coincidence.
Oh, no. Yeah, alcohol fucking numbs everything when other things open everything up. Close everything down, open.
Why is it super legal? Why is it? It's tax, but yeah. At least they're taxing the shit out of cigarettes now, because that's got no positives to it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Coming or going.
Anywho.
But all of these things to say that, as is always the case, it's still boiling down to, are you paying attention to yourself? Are you paying attention to what you actually think, what you actually feel? Are
you doing anything to actually elevate yourself, or you're just doing it to placate?
Are you staying buried?
Yep.
Switched off?
You know.
Asleep? Whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, that's it. Because, well, and that's a lot of these practices as well, when you come out of that, you know, asleep conscious state and into that unconscious state, it's uncomfortable. I think, like as you said, I think you brought up self-care a little while ago, and like actual like the other stuff self-care too, like don't get me wrong, but actual self-care is uncomfortable because it is taking that step back and being present with yourself and assessing what's going on.
I mean, it depends on which version of self-care we're really talking about.
But
like, is it a moment to be caring about your future self or caring about your present self? Do you need kindness or do you need challenge?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the times both those things are very uncomfortable for people.
Depends on what you're used to and all that sort of stuff too.
Right. So, you know, it's the practice of treating yourself like someone you care about. So it's
why caring about self as opposed to self-care is how I like to frame it for that exact reason.
It's like, you know, meditation. So you can get out of thought and into thinking, get into that, you know, higher awareness state. It's making sure that you're looking after yourself nutritionally, as you said, like feeding your body in a way that is in alignment with you, not what someone else told you to and you feel like shit about it. It's, you know, making sure you get a decent amount of sleep because, I don't know, you know, whatever theory.
It's kind of a big deal.
Well, this whole I'll sleep when I'm dead and hustle thingy or whatever else, again, that's just another way to keep you in the same state. And, you know, if you're exhausted, well, that's a you problem, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hang on a minute, like if you fucking sleep, you know, how else do things like, as we spoke about last episode, like anxiety, depression, all this sort of stuff.
Many pathways by which to get fucked up.
By which to get fucked up. Get fucked up because you don't sleep and you don't treat yourself with enough kindness, compassion and caring to actually say, well, you know what? I'm not going to, you know, binge watch Netflix until 4:00 in the morning and then try and work the next day. I'm going to actually do the journaling and do the meditation necessary to wind down. And
hope you're not using any heavy moving equipment at that point.
Right. You know, to meditate, to wind down, to, you know, notice what's coming up and why and all this sort of stuff. So you can actually sleep and you can actually, you know, think and ask questions about shit you don't understand and all of the above.
I think it's probably most obviously relevant when it comes to nutritional science, as an example. The necessity of doing your own damn research.
Well, even doing your own research, but also
all of these things. Because if you don't have that information,
yeah,
how do you make a better decision?
You know, and doing your own research, one, but also like asking questions and getting other things followed up, as in like two. So, you know, I think, you know, taking it back to sort of the start of the episode, for example, is like when you were saying, you know, people go in and be like, for nutrition, and then they'll get sent to a dietitian and they're not actually losing weight or they're not doing anything, and they
download an app,
you know, and they go back and they're like, it's not working, and then the professionals go, well, if you're doing what I told you to do, it should be working. So if it's not working, it's a you problem.
Yeah.
But there's no like being consideration on hormones. What's that affecting? Like again, sleep. How much sleep are you having? How stressed out are you?
Exercise, sunlight. Circadian rhythm.
Like where are your levels at? What is this happening? What's your thyroid doing? What's this doing? What's that doing? You know, and all this sort of stuff, which again is like pigeonholing to one thing that's supposed to fit everybody. You know, and again, sort of bringing it back to, like as you said, like women's cycle and how it's not set up, and a lot of young women are and girls are being thrown on the pill or
sometimes just fucking because.
Well, just because. And even still, like, who was it? I was still in the salon at this stage, so it was like a few years ago. These women, like 15, 16, just starting their apprenticeship and stuff like that, they weren't even being put on the pill, they were being put on the implement, which lasts like 4 years. And I'm like, why? And it was being sold to them as like, oh, you don't get your period anymore. Woohoo.
Just in case you want to do it. Or whatever.
You know, and it's just like, great. So, you know, and I was one of those people, you know, and you yourself know how many fun issues I've been having.
Mate, you're your own fucking textbook all by yourself.
Right? Of like.
Said with love.
I know, but
that's
it. Well,
you've had some stuff.
I've had stuff. You know, but that's it. I was the same. I was taught to push through. I was taught that I was never taught about a period and the fact that, you know, you're supposed to rest at this time. And if you were tired, that's a you problem. You know, you had to push through. You had to do this. And, you know, I fucking muscled my way through, you know, and because I wanted to be like, yes, I can do it. See? And that landed me in a space of fucking issues and surgeries and all this sort of stuff to like correct damage that has been done, and the damage has been done. Some of the stuff has been removed, but my uterus is still enlarged abnormally. You know, I still have the congestion around there. That's not going away.
And unfortunately, without wanting to sound dismissive, you're that outlier that doesn't get caught in the law of averages that a lot of what we practice in the way of science would teach. Was it last episode you were sort of saying like what's typical and common and normal really? It's like, no one's really that. It's just that some people are a little bit closer than others.
Yeah.
And I think the story you were just telling about those young girls on their apprenticeships in the salon, it's just like you're just going on it just because. It's like,
or is the fact that it's like, oh, they don't get their period, so they're like, yay.
There's a certain amount of appeal to that. Not having had a period doesn't sound like the funnest thing you'll ever do.
No, this is the thing. It's not the funnest thing you'll ever have. But if the system or society or however, if there was enough education around it, as well as living in a society and a system that was supportive of it, it wouldn't be as bad as what everyone makes out it to be. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, you bleed. Yeah, you feel like crap. Yeah, you feel tired. But that's the fucking point. The point is in that space and time as well. It is literally your body going, bitch, rest. Stop. Meditate. Heal. Whatever it is.
That self-care practice looks like.
That.
But instead of having that as the conversation.
No, it's like, oh, you've got your period and you don't feel well. Come to work. I don't care. And that's what's going on.
The look on Sky's face just then says something about having heard that a few times.
Maybe. And again, that's that instinct injury going, okay, well, maybe that I am the problem and I just need to toughen up and go through it and deal with it. But yeah.
So that.
How fucking vast majority of female population has things like polycystic ovarian syndrome now, endometriosis now, and stuff like that. And what do we do with that? Oh, here, take the pill, which makes it worse, not better. Just saying. If you wonder like that, and I think that's that physical manifestation of that instinct injury of like, well, you're fucking injured now. Like physically, actually.
The perpetuation of the idea, one way or the other, because you sort of mentioned a little while ago, it's like the system's not really sort of like as in work systems and structures are not really built to be appropriate to that.
Well, it's not really been built to be appropriate for any sort of illness or anything like that.
Humans in general.
So, women on a construct is one aspect, and that is something that they go through once a month. But, when I was in the workforce, like how many times did I ring up? Like how many times did I go to work with the flu, with this, with that, because, oh, we're understaffed. We need you. We need that. And we need this and we need that. And it's just like, again, you're pumping yourself full of shit to try and make yourself feel somewhat normal just so you can get through the day, and not actually allowing yourself the time, the space to actually rest and recover, which is essentially the manifestation of illness is literally you've been going too long. You need to fucking stop and rest and sleep and heal, and like that's in general, like...
Oh, I'm going to go even beyond that.
Like, how dare you get sick?
Have we talked about chronotypes yet?
No.
Okay. We'll save the most of the majority of it for the 6-part series that's clearly coming up about sleep. Chronotypes refers to most humans falling into one of two categories. Morning lark or night owl?
Oh, yep. Morning person here. Night person
I am
there.
not. how many jobs do you think would be appropriate for someone who seems to innately want to go to bed later and get up earlier? And get up later, sorry.
Well, no one. And the same on the flip side of the scale.
Yeah.
Like,
but which ones probably got more catered towards it?
Probably the early people.
With the old hustle and grind kind of mindset. Oh, he's up early, he's in sort of thing. What if that is working against your inherent instinct in the way your circadian rhythm feels like it works?
Again, I think I mentioned it in the last episode when, like, you know, when we look back sort of how primitively wired we actually are. As you said, like, you know, a lot of us, like, and down to a primitive level, we are wired to either be morning people or night people. And that was essentially, again, how, you know, living in a healthy tribe, like in a tribe's way, it worked, because the people that were morning people that would go to bed earlier would be watched over by the people that were still up at night, and vice versa.
Less time where the tribe is exposed to predation.
We you know, exposed to, you know, threats and all this sort of stuff.
Mongols and saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah.
Mongols riding saber-toothed tigers.
Oh, totally, because that's the thing.
That's the thing. It's how history worked.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like, as you said, well, the system's not really set up because it sits right in the middle of both of them, you know. So, like, someone like me who's up pretty early in the morning in a normal workplace, starting work at 9 o'clock, I'm up at like 5:30, you know.
You're a weirdo.
Because I'm a weirdo. Cool.
But if I have to get up before 8 o'clock, it's an uncool day.
Yeah, right. So, but then, like, I hit to 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm tired. Like, that's my wind down time, you know. So, but then I'm still having to, like, power through work and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of it, like, you know, if you have to get up before 8 o'clock in the morning, it's not a fun day. And
it's fine, but that's the best I can say. It's fine.
It's fine. But same thing, like, you've got to then try and get yourself up and, like, ready to go for the morning, and your brain's obviously not awake yet because it's like, bitch, what the fuck? You get to 5 o'clock and you're like, I'm cool now. Like, I can keep going. If I started at lunchtime, would be on Easy Street.
As an example.
As an example where, you know, like, the whole correlation, if I finished at lunchtime, I'm fucking winning. I love that shit. Like, I love finishing, like, you know, I'd love to start at 5 o'clock in the morning and finish at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I like that. I'm just weird, but that's just a thing.
It's
like,
what works.
It's what works. Like, I hate it when I was doing, like, you know, late nights and stuff, and I'd have to start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and then try and work to 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, bitch, I'm in bed by now.
Yeah.
But again, that's like that whole system that it's not really set up for what it's supposed to be.
Sorry, just image in my head, like, you're still at work at like 7 o'clock, and just in the back of your head, you can hear your bed. Sky.
Like,
where are you? But all of these being remarkable examples of the necessity of being present and becoming an expert in who you are.
And how you operate.
And the compulsion to actually want to find that shit out, because you're going to run better if you actually do that.
Yeah.
This is that we were talking about maybe 10, 15 minutes ago about, like, do your own research. What if the research is on you?
Yeah. Experiment.
That, getting there. Because, like, with the nutrition example, like, what happens if you don't know that a keto diet exists or what that looks like? But actually, that is a phenomenal example of how you may or may not work.
Yeah.
And it's not until you got that information and then paired that with information about what happens when you tried it and experimented with it, that you go, oh, this is what it feels like to be a fully functioning, energized human that runs on rocket fuel and awesomeness.
Yeah.
Figuring stuff out and then integrating it, like, cannot be overstated, guys.
Ask questions.
But addressing the idea that maybe you do have some instinct injury so that that's something that you can heal. Because the reason it's instinct injury is because you've injured something fundamental about you. Just because it's not a necessarily immediately obvious, I've snapped my femur kind of conversation.
Yeah.
But there is an injury to a thought process and a feeling process that has been derailed into something else.
100%.
And if you're not an expert in you, there's always someone else who's more than happy to tell you that they are. And they're going to do that with a book.
Yeah.
Whether that's a textbook on nutrition or a book read out by a weird dude in a dress at the front of a building. Again. Or someone wearing a white coat or someone wearing
that's it. If they're really
a
good,
nice suit on the TV.
Yeah. If they're really good, they'll actually ask questions and get you to answer them. And that's how you discover. I think that's the thing. Like it's walking in and going, I feel this, and then being like, this is what's wrong with you. And then you walk away and nothing actually happens. You're like, okay, that was weird. Or you walk in and go, I'm this is what's happening, and you're like, okay, cool. Well, what does that mean? How is that an issue? What's going on here? What's going on there? What's going on there? And getting you to actually move up into that thinking space of going, okay, this makes sense.
What is going on?
What is going on? Like, I know, like, even like not half, all of the feedback that I get after my like breakthrough sessions and stuff like that, because I'm really good at fucking uncovering patterns and shit, but a lot of it is just asking questions that people, don't really get asked, and makes these people actually physically stop and think and find the answers. And I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, well, based on everything that you've told me, this is the pattern you're running here, and this is why you're doing this here, and this is why you're feeling like this here, and all this stuff. And they're like, that makes sense. Wow, that makes so much sense. Okay, cool. What are we going to do now? And it's like, well, cool. Well, we need to do this, and clear that out the way, and, all that sort of stuff. But the whole process is not them walking in and going, I feel like this. And I'm like me opening a book and going, well, according to the book that was written in the 1800s, that's clearly not been updated. You have polio. Have fun with that. It's
he's a poke and a pill.
I'm going to stick, but it's a case of me going, okay, well, like fucking 2.5 to 3 hours of questions and answers of digging and uncovering and
I was about to go and be annoying and say, even then, you ask all those questions to try and actually fully clarify what's going on for this person.
Yeah.
But even then, like when you actually sort of say, well, this means to this and this leads to that, there's still got to be that check-in with that person going, does that make sense? Does that resonate? Does that feel true?
Exactly.
This is why, like, with my people, I always ask, like, every few steps along that, it's like, does this still feel true? Does this feel relevant to how you feel and who you think you are and all this sort of stuff? Because without that check-in, without them cross-referencing that stuff, it's just no matter how right you are.
Yeah. Well, how right I know I am is exactly what you said, because I do check and go, does that align? Does that make sense? Does that sound right? And all this sort of stuff. And if they say no, and I'm like, okay, cool, let's dig here.
Dial back.
Let's dial back,
without the inherent buy-in that they have with you mapping out what sounds like is going on for them. Like it's not that you're trying to injure their instinct further. It's that you're trying to give them a bit of a template by which to relate to their feelings and map them out onto.
To go and discover.
Yeah.
To go and process, to go and, think about it. Be present with it, yeah.
Anyway. We're currently having some off-air discussions by someone who's perhaps run out of patience to regulate his own
energy
injury.
Yeah.
Have we done this to death?
I think we have.
Instinct injury is a precursor to shadow work because it's based on self-awareness and what you're struggling with, by which to create leverage to lean into what needs addressing and fixing and challenging and integrating.
What he said. I gotta repeat that. That was really good.
Okay, we'll take that.
Take that. And with that being said, be good.
Be kind.
Be smart.
Be your best you.
No bar fights.
You're getting like pretty good at that.
I know. I got it.
Yeah.
I just had to like layer it in a few times, and had to create that new neural pathway.
Groove that shit.
Groove that shit.
Anyway.
Anyways.
See you guys.
See ya.